My aunt manipulated my elderly grandmother into changing her will, cutting off all other family members. When we contested, she threatened to sue everyone into bankruptcy. Our family's saga begins long before the will controversy, rooted in a complex web of relationships that had been simmering for decades. I'm the youngest of 4 siblings, and our dynamic with Aunt Karen was always complicated. Growing up, she'd been the quintessential overachiever, perfect grades, successful career as a corporate lawyer, always seemingly one step ahead of everyone else. Grandma Helen was a remarkable woman, a retired high school English teacher who had raised 3 children as a single mother after losing her husband to a heart attack when she was just 42. She'd worked multiple jobs, put her kids through college, and maintained an incredible sense of grace and compassion throughout her life. Her home was always the center of family gatherings, a warm sanctuary filled with the smell of her legendary apple pie and the sound of endless storytelling. Karen had always been different. While my father, Uncle Robert, and my mom worked blue-collar jobs, Karen climbed the corporate ladder with a ruthlessness that both impressed and terrified us. She'd graduated top of her law school class, worked for a prestigious firm in Chicago, and seemed to view family more as a strategic network than a support system. The first signs of trouble came subtly. About 5 years before the will incident, Karen began positioning herself as Grandma's primary caregiver. She lived closest to Grandma's suburban Chicago home, and slowly but surely started limiting access to our grandmother. It wasn't dramatic at first, just small, calculated moves. She'd schedule doctor's appointments during times when other family members typically visited. She'd screen phone calls, create elaborate narratives about why someone couldn't speak to Grandma right now. "She's resting," or "she's not feeling well," became her standard responses. We didn't realize then that we were watching the initial stages of a meticulously planned isolation strategy. My brother Michael, the forensic accountant, would later describe Karen's approach as surgical precision. She didn't just manipulate, she strategically dismantled family connections with the same methodical approach she'd use in a complex corporate litigation case. Grandma had always been fiercely independent. She'd managed her own finances, made her own decisions, and prided herself on her mental sharpness well into her 70s. But aging is a gradual process of vulnerability, and Karen expertly exploited every small decline. She began by subtly suggesting that the family was becoming a burden. Conversations with Grandma would include carefully crafted narratives about how other siblings were too busy or didn't really care. She'd bring up past family conflicts, some real, some fabricated, to create emotional distance. The medical manipulation was particularly insidious. Karen gradually introduced new doctors who were more amenable to her narrative. She'd accompany Grandma to appointments, control the conversation, and subtly influence medical assessments. When Grandma would show signs of confusion, which can be normal in elderly individuals, Karen would dramatically emphasize these moments, painting a picture of a family that couldn't possibly understand or care for her properly. Financial control came next. Karen convinced Grandma to give her power of attorney, presenting it as a practical necessity. "What if something happens and no one can help you?" she'd say, creating fear where there should have been comfort. Once she had financial control, the real manipulation began. She started making investments with Grandma's money, investments that conveniently benefited Karen more than they did Grandma. Expensive life insurance policies where Karen was the primary beneficiary. Real estate transactions that were technically legal but ethically questionable. Each move was calculated, each document carefully crafted to appear legitimate. The original will had been beautifully simple. Grandma's assets were to be divided equally among her 4 children, with specific provisions for her grandchildren's education funds. It was a testament to her belief in fairness and her love for her entire family. The new will was a stark contrast, a document so obviously manipulated that it seemed almost like a caricature of legal abuse. Every asset was transferred to Karen. The family home, retirement savings, investment portfolios, even personal items with deep sentimental value. Family heirlooms that were meant to be shared were now exclusively Karen's. When we first discovered the new will, we were in shock. It wasn't just about the money, though that was significant. It was about the complete betrayal of everything Grandma had ever stood for. This woman who had taught generations about compassion, about family, had apparently decided to cut off her entire family except for one daughter. But we knew Grandma. This wasn't her. This was Karen's handiwork. The legal battle that ensued was more than just a contest over inheritance. It became a battle for Grandma's autonomy, her dignity, and the truth of who she really was as a person. We hired a team of elder abuse specialists, forensic accountants, and legal experts. Michael's skills became our most potent weapon. He began meticulously documenting every suspicious transaction, every manipulated medical record, every strategic move Karen had made. What emerged was a portrait of calculated, long-term emotional and financial abuse. Karen hadn't just changed a will, she had systematically dismantled a family, piece by careful piece. The court proceedings became a complex dance of legal strategies. Karen's high-powered legal team tried every trick in the book. They presented medical evaluations that suggested Grandma was of sound mind. They brought forward character witnesses who painted Karen as the perfect, devoted daughter. But we had something more powerful: the truth. Our expert witnesses included geriatric psychologists who could demonstrate the subtle signs of elder manipulation. We brought forward Grandma's longtime family doctor, who was horrified by what had transpired. We presented a timeline of Karen's gradual isolation tactics, showing a pattern of behavior that went far beyond normal caregiving. The most devastating testimony came from Grandma herself. Once freed from Karen's influence, she spoke candidly about feeling confused, manipulated, and ultimately betrayed. "I never would have wanted to hurt my children," she told the court, her voice breaking. "I don't even recognize the woman in that will." In a landmark decision, not only was the will invalidated, but Karen was also legally barred from being Grandma's guardian or having any financial control. The court appointed a neutral guardian who immediately began reconnecting Grandma with her family. Our victory wasn't just legal, it was deeply personal. We had protected not just an inheritance, but the memory and spirit of a woman who had defined our family's values for generations. The aftermath was complex. Healing takes time. Grandma needed therapy to process the manipulation she'd endured. Our family had to rebuild trust, to understand how something like this could happen. We learned that elder abuse isn't always dramatic. It's often subtle, strategic, and perpetrated by those closest to the victim. It requires vigilance, communication, and a willingness to ask hard questions. For anyone reading this, watch out for the signs. Isolation. Sudden changes in financial arrangements. A caregiver who seems more interested in control than care. These are red flags that demand attention. Our story is a testament to the power of family, of persistence, and of standing up against manipulation. It's about protecting our most vulnerable family members and ensuring that love, not strategy, guides our relationships. In the end, family isn't about legal documents or financial control. It's about connection, compassion, and the unbreakable bonds that truly matter. Final update, 1 year later. It's been a year since our court victory, and the landscape of our family has transformed in ways I never could have imagined. What began as a desperate fight to protect our grandmother has become a profound journey of healing, understanding, and unexpected redemption. Grandma Helen's recovery has been nothing short of miraculous. The months following the legal battle were challenging, but with proper medical support and family therapy, she began to reclaim her sense of self. The psychological damage inflicted by Karen's manipulation ran deep. There were moments when Grandma would become anxious, questioning her own memories and decisions. Our family therapist, Dr. Elizabeth Rodriguez, became an instrumental figure in our healing process. She helped us understand the complex dynamics of elder abuse, explaining how manipulators like Karen systematically erode an elderly person's sense of autonomy and self-worth. Through carefully structured family sessions, we learned to rebuild trust, not just with Grandma, but with each other. The most unexpected twist came from an investigation that extended far beyond our initial legal battle. Michael's forensic accounting skills uncovered a pattern of financial misconduct that went beyond our family. It turned out Karen had a history of similar manipulative behaviors in her professional life. Her law firm, upon internal investigation, discovered multiple instances of client fund misappropriation and ethical violations. The professional consequences were severe. Karen was disbarred, her legal career effectively ended. The very tools she had used to manipulate and control, her legal expertise, her professional connections, were stripped away. It was a form of justice that felt both personal and systemic. But our story wasn't about revenge. It was about healing. Grandma Helen's recovery became a mission for our entire family. We created a support system that ensured she was never isolated again. Each sibling took turns spending time with her, creating a rotating schedule of care and companionship. We installed technology that allowed her to easily connect with family members, ensuring transparency and constant communication. Her medical care was rebuilt from the ground up. We found a geriatric care team that specialized in helping patients recover from emotional and psychological manipulation. They worked tirelessly to rebuild her confidence, to help her understand that her worth wasn't determined by her ability to make perfect decisions, but by the love that surrounded her. The financial recovery was equally important. The court-mandated investigation not only invalidated Karen's will but also recovered a significant portion of the assets she had misappropriated. We set up a trust for Grandma that ensured her financial security while providing complete transparency to all family members. But perhaps the most profound healing came from unexpected conversations. Grandma began to open up about her experiences, sharing how Karen's manipulation had made her feel increasingly isolated and confused. These conversations were painful but necessary. They allowed our family to understand the insidious nature of elder abuse and to recognize the warning signs early. We decided to turn our personal tragedy into a broader mission. With Grandma's blessing, we began working with local elder care advocacy groups. We shared our story, not for sympathy, but to educate other families about the subtle signs of elder manipulation. Michael developed a workshop for identifying financial elder abuse, drawing from our own experience. The legal precedent set by our case became significant. Our attorneys informed us that the detailed documentation of Karen's manipulation had created a blueprint for identifying and prosecuting similar cases of elder abuse. Expert witnesses we had brought forward continued to be called in other cases, spreading awareness about the complex ways elderly individuals can be exploited. Karen, predictably, didn't take her downfall quietly. She attempted multiple legal challenges, tried to contact Grandma through intermediaries, and even attempted to paint herself as the victim. But the mountain of evidence we had compiled made her claims increasingly hollow. Our relationship with Karen became complicated. While we had no desire for a relationship with her, we also recognized the deeper psychological issues at play. Family therapy helped us process our anger, our hurt, and ultimately, our capacity for compassion. Grandma Helen's perspective was perhaps the most profound. "I don't hate Karen," she would tell us. "I'm sad for her." Somewhere along the way, she lost understanding of what family truly means. These words became our guiding principle. Our fight was never about punishment, but about protection. About preserving the essence of family, love, support, and mutual respect. As we approach the 1-year mark, our family feels different. Stronger. More connected. We've learned that healing is not a linear process. It's messy, complicated, and requires constant effort. To anyone reading this who might be experiencing similar situations, trust your instincts. Ask questions. Create transparency. No legal document, no manipulation is more powerful than a family united in love and truth. Our story is still being written, one day at a time.